What's going on, everybody?
We're back.
We are back for a late night recording of your favorite podcast, Enter Code Pod. I am one of your hosts, Ryan Welch, along with Triple J, John Jefferson Jr.
What up, people?
So, it's late at night. It is 10:45 Mountain Standard Time.
Mm-hmm.
And why is it so late? Because we just spent what felt like 5 hours watching some wrestling.
Yeah.
And that's what the episode is about tonight, guys. We already hinted in the first couple episodes that we like wrestling, and we've talked about it a couple times on the show. Well, maybe they prefer wrestling.
I like wrestling, so we gonna say wrestling.
Sports entertainment wrestling.
Oh yeah, just say with the proper accents.
With the pinky up into the air as we talk about the wrestling.
Snooty attitude, yes. Hip hip chitio.
Okay, fine, that doesn't sound right. Wrestling.
Yeah.
We want to talk about that tonight, since we saw the Backlash pay-per-view, and we want to talk about what we think about the state of wrestling these days, and what we think of the pay-per-view that we just watched. So, without further ado, we're going to get started. And if you don't like wrestling like us, then we feel sorry for you.
You need this in your life.
You
if
do.
Everything else is just fun entertainment.
It is.
Even if you laugh at it. That's what my wife does. She comes in and just shakes her head. She's like, "You're a dork." And I'm like, "Love me anyway."
One thing that I think people need to understand is the era of old that pushed the limits and boundaries of what could be shown on television is not quite there anymore. So I think with today's youth watching, and also a younger youth audience watching the show, they have tamed themselves down in the years.
Oh yeah.
So it used to be pretty bad. So yeah, we understand if you haven't watched it, but it's entertaining, and we find it very entertaining. So hopefully you'll live with us while talking about it for a little bit tonight. And let us know in the comments. Let us know either on our voicemail on anchor.fm or leave a comment on our socials what you think. Do you watch the current product? Has it been a while since you've watched the current product? Have you never in your life?
Do you even know what wrestling is?
That's right. This ain't your daddy's wrestling.
No.
This isn't the Roman Gecko wrestling. Greco.
Did you say gecko?
I might have said gecko.
He said, "Wow."
That's
yeah,
right.
It's late. Our brains are not here.
It's Geico. Geico wrestling is what we're really talking
They'll
about.
save you money while they watch you wrestle. That's great.
No, we're not sponsored by Geico, although we'll take their money. Anyway, so let's jump into it. First, before we talk about the pay-per-view, let's talk about what we think of the current state of wrestling. We are fans of WWE, which is the World Wrestling Entertainment owned by Vince McMahon, that he's had wrestling around, and this has been around for, decades now.
When we were wee laddies.
When we were wee lads. Obviously, the characters have changed, and young and old have come and gone, and there are some that are old that are still wrestling to this day.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still just meant to be entertaining. It's scripted wrestling. So what's been interesting is seeing how they've adjusted to the current times and the current COVID-19 crisis that's going on. So if you haven't seen the product, what they're doing now is that they're working and recording in their performance center. So they have this big facility that normally, under normal conditions, is used for training up-and-coming wrestlers.
Mm-hmm.
Or even wrestlers who need to rehab if they've been injured or coming back into the game, things like that. So now they've been recording in the performance center, and it's been interesting. What do you think? What are your thoughts on the shows these past couple months?
I've been entertained for the most part. I mean, it's definitely not the same environment without having like that live audience. Like, part of the experience is hearing the fan, as being a fan ourselves, of like when an epic moment happens, and when you've got like maybe 10 people in the audience there right now, and it's like, yay! And you're like, wow, something's missing. Oh yeah, fans.
It's been a big deficit, I think, for wrestling. We went to a show in February.
I think so.
I think it was in February. So Monday Night Raw came into town to Salt Lake, and it's weird to say, but it was one of the last live shows that they did before this all started. So it's crazy. So we were in the audience. Now, Raw is technically like 3 hours long. And so they also had like a pre-match, a couple pre-match episodes where they recorded a Saturday show called is it Main Event?
Yeah.
Saturday Main Event?
Saturday.
Main Event.
Yeah, Saturday
something.
Night Main Event.
So 4 hours of wrestling is a lot on a man's vocal cords.
We survived, though.
We survived. We survived. I lost my voice for about a week. Because, like John said, that's part of the fun. We cheering and booing, cheering the good guys, booing the bad guys. That's part of the fun. During during the show that we went to, one of the first segments that we saw was a wrestler named Randy Orton, and he was just diabolical.
Ooh, we booed him so hard.
We booed him very, very, very hard.
He couldn't even finish his promo. Like, he walked out of the arena, like, everyone was out of their chairs just, boo! You suck! Boo!
Now, was that part scripted? Maybe. But it's okay. We felt like we were part of the action.
Oh, yeah.
We felt like we had the power, and we got rid of him, and he couldn't deliver his diabolical promo. And, you know, we were cheering for people that came in, booing those who were the bad guys. It was all around just a great experience. So seeing them now it definitely feels different. Not necessarily wrong, but it feels different. So that's something that we've been, you know, trying to get used to. Over the past few weeks, they've started having wrestlers that are part of their development program in the audience. And I don't know, for me it's been hit and miss. What do you think?
I mean, I get what they're trying to do to still try to create that experience. It's definitely not the same, but I mean, these guys are fans too. That's why they're doing it. So you can still feel like tonight we were watching, you could see like their excitement. You're like, oh yeah, I'd be the same way. I'd probably be a lot louder than them, but
yeah, it's better than what they had before, where it was empty. And so you heard every grunt and every slap and every...
That was rough.
It just, you know, having them trash talk while wrestling, I think was a lot to ask of them, of all the wrestlers. So at least there was some noise in the crowd, and it kind of drowns out some of the like weird stuff that you hear as they're attempting to trash talk, and it just kind of doesn't hit very well.
No.
So this has been, it's been the state for WWE now since March, I would say, right? End of March, early April.
I think so, yeah.
Same for another competitor, AEW, or All Elite Wrestling. If you haven't watched that is on TNT on Wednesday nights. They also have a YouTube hour show, AEW Dark.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you haven't seen wrestling in a while, you can watch it on Monday nights, Wednesday nights, Friday nights.
And even if you miss it, it's on YouTube, so you can watch the highlights. And
That's right. So it's been interesting. I think one of the biggest stories that I found interesting was WWE's attempt to be considered an essential business in Florida so they can keep going. I think that it's interesting seeing who's on TV and who's not because of the desire to be safe and to be healthy at this point. So I would say the roster right now is pretty interesting. So you see some regulars on there, but there are others that haven't been on there in a while. So they had recently a big tournament because one of the wrestlers who had the Intercontinental belt didn't want to wrestle. Because obviously being in close contact and sweating all over each other.
Right. It's a choice. You got to be safe.
Yep. You got to be safe. There's been other wrestlers that are immune compromised. You know, Roman Reigns can't wrestle because he had cancer.
Yeah.
Or was it leukemia?
It was leukemia.
Was it leukemia?
Yeah.
So he had leukemia, which he's recovered from, which is great, but that just wrecked his immune system. So there's no way and he's arguably one of the most popular wrestlers out there.
Oh, yeah.
So there's no way he's going to wrestle because that's just asking for health complications in the future that he can't risk.
Come back soon, big dog. We miss you.
That's right. We do. It's been interesting seeing his career.
Yeah.
People booed him until they, finally realized it's not his fault that he was getting pushed and forced to win. It was, he's a good dude and a good wrestler. Good
Yes.
wrestler. So the product's been interesting. And so I think with time, we'll see how it morphs and how it changes. I don't, we've all seen the news reports. I don't think COVID's going away anytime soon. So it'll be interesting to see how long they're using the wrestlers as audience members and how long they're going to be in the performance center. And they're trying to go about their daily business where they're filming 3 shows and having a pay-per-view once a month, which is kind of crazy. Do you think they can? I mean, they obviously have to sustain this, but do you see them changing anything?
I think unless things are lifted, I don't think anything's going to change. I mean, we might see a little bit more in the crowds from like development centers and stuff, but
yeah,
I don't foresee anything drastically changing right now.
Right. I think it's fair to say that Vince enjoys his money. And so he's got some very nice lucrative contracts with USA and with Fox. So most likely he is going to push to keep the product. That was kind of one of the big stories when this first started, so early April, was how is this going to affect these TV contracts that he made? Because they're not having live shows, and that was a stipulation in the contract. So that was kind of interesting. Anyway, sorry, wrestling nerd stuff, behind the scenes stuff.
I mean, I do appreciate that they do have like the fans barricaded, so at least Vince, even though he wants his money, he's trying to keep people safe, so they are barricaded behind that plexi, so there's not like physical contact with the wrestlers that are wrestling. Social distancing, people aren't even like huddled close by, like they are spaced out, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, a little bit different than AEW did at first, where they had wrestlers in the crowd, but there was no plexiglass, and they were kind of close together in AEW. So yeah, at least some spacing and things like that. And I can't imagine he's forcing the wrestlers to do it. Hopefully not, because that'd be pretty trashy.
I don't think so.
But at least getting some stars in there and getting them to be involved. And like you said earlier, they're fans. First and foremost, they're fans. It's nice seeing that. So with that being said, the product is interesting, but they're trying to kind of keep business as usual. So this was a normal pay-per-view that they do on a yearly basis, and for the most part, I think the show turned out pretty well. So yeah. Overall thoughts. What do you think first before we break down
without
matches?
Breaking down the individual matches right now, just overall, I was entertained. I mean, there were some lulls here and there. I was like, okay, hurry up. But I was like, as a fan watching, I'm like, okay. And it's nice to see some wrestlers that have come back that we haven't seen for a while and seeing like their improvement. And we'll go over that when we break down the individual matches.
Absolutely. So the night started off with the pre-show. That's something that they've been doing the past couple years, where they've had a pre-show and having, I don't know, they're not really analysts. They're Hall of Fame wrestlers and some other people on the pre-show, kind of hyping. The purpose is to hype up the pay-per-view and what to expect, and they show promos and video packages that lead up to explain to the audience who may not watch it weekly what's going on. So that's been part of the pre-show, but usually there is a match or two, and this time there was a match for the United States title. So Apollo Crews versus Andrade. So didn't get a chance to watch that. Usually the main show's long enough for me.
Right? That's a lot of wrestling.
I don't want to watch an hour-long preview or pre-show. But Apollo won. And what's been nice about that is Apollo's been used pretty sparingly, and at least on the main roster. Yeah. So it's been kind of nice seeing him.
Nice to see him get a little push. Like he's a very gifted wrestler. Like if you ever want to like look him up on YouTube, just watch some like highlight clips. He's a very gifted athlete, and it's nice that he's finally getting a little bit of his dues.
Yes. Yeah. Super talented, super athletic. I mean, he jumps super high and gosh. Yeah, very, very cool.
For
very
a big
cool
dude, like I wish I could move like that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I wish I had his muscles too. Yeah, he's a big boy.
Yeah, he's big dude.
Yeah. So Apollo won, kept the belt on, which is good. You wonder when these wrestlers get pushes if they're going to actually keep the belt or if they're going to give it up, the next pay-per-view and only have it for a couple weeks. So they're continuing his push, which has been great. The show then officially started with a 3-team tag team matchup for the women's tag team belts. So we had Alexis Bliss and Nikki Cross versus Iconics versus the champions, which is Sasha Banks and Bayley. So, John, what were your thoughts on that first match?
I keep waiting for Sasha to turn on Bayley. I don't know if it's going to happen because I feel like we're all waiting for that to happen. I mean, they got the belts. I feel like they're going to lose them soon. I felt like everybody was kind of picking on Bliss and Cross. Mm-hmm. Actually, I feel like I like them the best out of the 3 teams that we saw.
Yeah.
Like, not to hate on anyone else in there, but, I see a lot of improvement from, the Iconics. We haven't seen them for a while.
Yes. Yeah, they've been off TV for quite some time.
Yeah. And you can see that they've, behind the scenes put in work. And even, the champs, Bayley and the Boss, everybody put in good work. It was a quick match, mm-hmm. which I'm okay with.
Yeah.
Not every match has to be, half an hour, 45 minutes.
Edge Orton.
Yeah.
We'll get to that later.
It was short and sweet, and I was satisfied. And I hope that, they keep this little feud going just so we have a storyline that's not squashed after one pay-per-view.
That's right. One of the struggles, if you watch wrestling consistently, and if you watch all 3 shows, is you see these team-ups of wrestlers who have had iconic matches against each other.
You did there.
You like that?
Iconic.
That wasn't even part of what I was going for, but you're right. So the tag champs right now, Sasha Banks and Bayley, they have had amazing matches in the developmental system called NXT. And so they've been partners for a long time on the main roster. And the previous matches that they've had, it hovers over them like a cloud. It's interesting because the writers are trying to sell, they'll try to put in little hints that they're going to break up, like mm-hmm. you mentioned. And we all know that we want them to break up because when they fight against each other, they put on just an amazing performance.
They bring out the best in each other.
They are super talented, and their matches are incredible. So seeing them together it's been a long time. And so every week we kind of ask ourselves, okay, is it coming? Is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? And tonight, no real signs, mm-hmm. I would say, that they're going to break up. They got the win, they kept the belts, and I'm assuming they're going to keep the tag belts, for a little longer until they find some team, I'm sure, to take the belts back from them.
Yeah.
But that's just the question with them. Are they going to actually wrestle again? Because, if you are ever interested, it's just YouTube has a lot of clips of matches. Or if you subscribe to the WWE Network, you can watch some of these amazing NXT matches between Sasha and Bayley. So,
worth it.
Yeah, it's hard for me to enjoy them as a tag team because I just know it's okay, they're so much better mm-hmm. if they just fought each other. So that's been kind of weird. So it's weird watching them in these types of programs as a tag team, but we'll see how it goes. Overall, good start to the show.
Yes,
I would say good start. So the follow-up matchup was between Jeff Hardy and Sheamus. And so not our favorite match. The pay-per-view started off strong, and then this kind of, put a damper in plans. If you don't know Jeff Hardy's been wrestling for a number of years. Him and his brother Matt were just known as high-flying tag team. And so they had just amazing matches when they were younger. His brother's with AEW now. And so the problem I had, and I don't know if you agree or not, John, but the problem I had, and with any type of whenever WWE brings in real life storylines or scenarios, I have a problem with that. So unfortunately, for a number of years, Jeff Hardy had a substance abuse problem. alcohol, drugs. If you ever feel like it, YouTube Jeff Hardy and TNA wrestling or Impact Wrestling. There is a really bad clip of a pay-per-view for TNA, and he's fighting against Sting, who's probably one of the most iconic wrestlers ever. And Jeff's obviously inebriated or on something. And so he can't wrestle, he can't do anything, and it's just so painful to watch. So he's come a long way, and it's hard seeing that storyline brought into play, and that's what's been happening the past couple of weeks. Sheamus has been calling him out, calling him a junkie. There was a weird incident where another wrestler was hit by a car, and they arrested Jeff, saying he was, driving under the influence. And so that was weird. I don't know. What do you think of the storyline leading up to the match?
Kind of like you, like when they play on like what's going on realistically, like, okay, he's had his issues, but as far as we know, he's on the up and up. Like,
right.
We don't need to rehash that. Like, that's, especially with someone with addiction, that's another way to kind of make them relapse.
Yes.
I get we need stories to kind of engage and make this more relatable, but I don't know. I just felt like it could have just been, okay, this Jeff Hardy is like redemption, and Sheamus is like, okay, you don't need to be redeemed, like, we don't care about you, and it's just like a David and Goliath kind of thing.
Right. And it started, the announcers kept trying to make it sound like Sheamus was attacking because he wanted respect. So that was interesting, because then you hear Sheamus in the ring yelling at Jeff during this match that, oh, I'm here to save you and redeem you, and it was weird. And last week, folks, Jeff threw a cup of pee on Sheamus.
Yeah, just to preface that, Sheamus didn't want to agree to the match until Jeff did a drug test, and you have to pee in a cup.
Yeah.
Obviously, it wasn't real pee, because if you look at the video, the cup was filled way too high for the amount of time he was in there. But
that's right.
Symbolic. You don't want to throw pee in somebody's face. That's just nasty.
Yeah, Vince has been known to want to keep things real, but I think he draws a line on actual pee.
Yes.
There was a funny thing with Roman Reigns last year, where the bad guys kept covering him in like dog food, like real mushy dog food. So and Roman was on podcast saying, nope, that was real. That was real dog food. So luckily, no, we don't think this was actually pee that was thrown at him. But anyway, so the whole storyline was weird, and the match ended up with Sheamus beating Jeff. And it just was kind of awkward the whole entire time, hearing Sheamus talking about him, being a junkie, and he's saving him. And, Jeff is up there in age, I think. And so, he's been wrestling for a long time, and lots of extreme matches too, and crazy stuff and damage he's done to his body. This stuff just
takes its toll on your body after all this time. And we greatly appreciate all those that are still doing it. But take care of your body. Like, if it's showing signs to retire, go be an announcer. Like, we'll still love to see you and hear your commentary.
That's right.
We just don't want you to die.
No, please don't. There's been one day we might have to talk about those, horror stories. Because there's been a lot in the history of WWE, unfortunately. So that was a down point, I think, and hopefully that means that they're done with that kind of storyline. We'll see. You never know. Unfortunately, WWE is known for beating a dead horse, I guess you can, as the kids call it. So, who knows? Hopefully they're done with that. After that was the women's championship match, Raw championship match, between the champion Asuka and the challenger Nia Jax. Nia.
Wow.
Botch Jax.
Wow. Wow, we're going to go there. We're coming out swinging.
We're going to go there. No, I feel like, someone might not be caught up on wrestling, so we just got to tell them the truth and the whole truth.
If she comes after us, I'm throwing you at her.
She's a scary woman.
Yes.
So Nia is an interesting wrestler where, she's known as a powerhouse, I guess you can say. Except there's been a long history of her hurting other wrestlers. if there's, you can Google search stories or see YouTube clips of her actually hurting wrestlers, and it's not a good history, unfortunately.
No.
So even it happened recently with the build up to this match where she threw a wrestler into the steel steps and actually got it. The other wrestler got a pretty bad cut on her forehead.
It's got to be safe.
You have to. So, she's an interesting choice, but she is a natural bad guy. So the match ended up in a disqualification because they were both beating each other up outside the ring, and you only have 10 seconds to be out in the ring, even though that's pretty inconsistent.
Depends on the ref and who's counting.
Yeah, the refs sometimes will count, especially if it's part of the storyline. They will count from 1 to 10, no problems. But, there's other times where, you have to stretch out the counting. And so,
yes,
sometimes you'll repeat the number 5 or 6 multiple times, and hopefully no one notices. Anyway, the beauty of wrestling.
Yes.
So that was an okay match. Glad everyone was safe.
Yes.
But it was more of a, they're keeping the storyline going for future episodes.
Oh, yeah.
So that wasn't too bad. After that, we had and this was weird too. We had the WWE champion, Drew McIntyre, versus Bobby Lashley. So usually when you're the champion, you have a match kind of towards the end of a pay-per-view because it's WWE's most prestigious title, I guess you can say.
Yeah.
So having them go forth, I thought was interesting. And the storyline there is WWE is still trying to push the storyline of Bobby's wife interfering and wrecking his career, which is boring and we're tired of it. And
but the storyline aside, that was a heck of a match.
Yes.
Like, congrats, both of you. Like, Drew, Bobby, like, I've never been a huge Bobby Lashley fan, but he earned my respect tonight. Like, just seeing the kind of match they can put on. And I think it was good for Drew, too, just seeing someone who's kind of on par with him, because Drew's a big boy.
Yes, yeah.
Like,
they are both easily between 6'2" to 6'6" feet tall.
I'm pretty sure they're taller than me, and I'm like one of the tallest people I know.
Right. They're humongous. And so big, beefy boys. And so the joke really is sometimes these big muscle men have a hard time wrestling for long periods of time. But they put on a really, really good match. And Drew ended up winning, and so he keeps the championship. And hopefully that means they're going to keep going with this storyline because they put on a really good show.
Yeah.
Probably one of the best, probably the best of the night.
I think so.
Which is saying a lot.
Yeah.
So then, as WWE does, we needed some laughter, some silliness. As we're hitting hour 3. No, I'm kidding. No. This pay-per-view wasn't as long as it could have been.
No.
But yeah, just after that, we had a comedy match between, it was supposed to be the Street Profits versus the Viking Warriors or Viking Raiders.
Experience.
No, I thought they changed the Viking Raiders.
I thought it was Viking Experience now.
No, because everyone booed and hated them.
I can't keep up. You changed your name too much.
They were known in NXT as the War Raiders. And it was great because everyone would chant, "War, war, war," as they come down, and it was cool. And then they changed the name to Viking Experience, and everyone booed because it was a horrible name. So anyway, they're very talented boys as well, but they need help with the name. So it was a match where they were fighting against each other, and the lead up was sports related.
They were doing like a competition, kind of like, just trying to have fun with this whole dynamic, which is good. We need some laughter during all this craziness. So they would do like, they had, what was it? Like there was a turkey eating contest. They went bowling. There was pole vaulting.
Yes.
And,
mini golf.
And silliness. So there was a lot of silliness that ensued with this match too. It was like, basically it was a backyard brawl, but it was like the most obnoxious off the wall. Like there was bowling balls, there was chicken legs. Was it chicken or turkey legs?
Turkey legs.
Turkey leg.
Oh,
like
yeah.
A giant turkey leg.
Yes.
And there were ninjas.
Ninjas, ladies and gentlemen. Ninjas.
Yeah.
Yes. a little stereotypical because they had one of their Asian stars, one of their cruiserweights, who is very funny. I mean, he's a funny wrestler, but had him like leading the ninjas. And anyway, that part was a little awkward, but it was meant to be funny. And it ended up with them in a dumpster. And I guess there was a tentacled monster.
Yeah, there was a garbage monster, so they ran for their lives.
Yep.
So they never actually had a wrestling match. It was just a bunch of silliness. But it was nice to have that little just kind of breakup. Like, you can ask Ryan. I don't think I've laughed that hard in a long time. But... Yeah,
it's been a while. And I don't know if they were intending us to laugh that much, but it was pretty darn funny.
Yeah.
Since we're speaking of that pre-recorded stuff, that's been happening more and more, where the episodes themselves have been pre-recorded, these funny vignettes have been pre-recorded. WrestleMania had arguably their most memorable matches were pre-recorded. And so I wonder if they're going to keep this trend up even after they start inviting live audiences back. I don't know. What do you think?
I think they should.
Yeah.
But it's hard to say. Like, when you have your audience back, maybe you're not going to do that anymore. But I think that's part of the appeal of watching wrestling right now, is these little episodes they have. I mean, heck, was it WrestleMania? No, it was Money in the Bank.
The whole main event?
Yeah.
The actual ladder match? Yeah.
Yeah. So they were at like the WWE headquarters and going through like the whole building and just the whole stories that ensued. And then at one point they ended up in Vince's office and they were just kind of like, and it's kind of that awkwardness of like, oh, Dad's watching. So they're like cleaned up and
then they had a food fight.
Right? Just silliness. Like, yeah, I think they should keep it going.
I hope they do. During WrestleMania, they had a very interesting match between John Cena, who has been the face of the company for decades.
Yeah.
It seems like for years and years. And against a wrestler named Bray Wyatt. And it was pre-recorded, and it was almost like not a diss, but it really towed the line of making fun of the owner, Vince McMahon, which was very interesting. But then it also kind of turned into like a This Is Your Life segment with John Cena. And it went through John's career and just interesting moments where it wasn't, they hardly wrestled. They didn't like wrestle, but it was all storytelling. But it honestly was still one of my favorite things I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It was incredible, that retrospective of looking at different decades and looking at how John's been used in the WWE and, you know, the oversaturation of John Cena and the fact that, did he play any parts of keeping wrestlers down and not lifting them up?
And that was kind of the story, is because Bray was saying, you kept me down. Like, you're the reason, like, this character that I had didn't get put over. But Bray came back with this new character, and I think Bray should keep this character. Like, it's been great.
It's been really cool.
One of the best characters going on right now with WWE.
That's one of the nice things about WWE when they get into, like, the supernatural elements. You know, Undertaker has been a wrestler for, 30 years. He's been wrestling since like the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
So a long time, but his character is all supernatural. So in that aspect, this new character being supernatural, it works out really, really well. Yes. And it's very cool. But it allows them some more creative freedom. So the only issue is when crowds come back, you know, you have to toe the line between having entertainment for those who are sitting at home versus those in attendance. So having to watch like a 15-20 minute match on the Jumbotron, yeah, it would really stink for those in attendance.
But it'd be great for us at home.
It would be. So I do hope they keep it going. Because, you know, in this case, it was funny. Like in the case of WrestleMania, it could actually be really introspective, and it could really shine a light on things that you didn't think you would see in the WWE. Vince, if you don't watch it, Vince McMahon, the owner, has a lot of control and he has a lot of say. So that was one of the main surprises as well of watching that WrestleMania match is, holy cow, he okayed this.
Right.
He let this happen. This one tonight was, it felt like Vince has hands all in it because making it a comedy match and I mean ninjas and monsters in a dumpster, like that's kind of feels like his MO.
He knows what works though. I mean, he's made it last this long.
Yes, exactly. So we'll see. Hopefully they keep it going because I mean it helped out tonight because was, you know, it was getting to be kind of a longer pay-per-view and I think we needed a lighthearted moment. Then the final match, and I already can't keep a straight face. So they've billed this as, ladies and gentlemen, the greatest wrestling match of all time.
Ooh, those are brave words. Brave words.
Now, the participants are wrestlers that have been... One has been wrestling for a very long time, Randy Orton. He's been a bad guy his whole career, basically, right? Has he ever been a good guy?
I think when he first came, he was a good guy.
Oh, okay.
Before he became with like Evolution and
Legacy
and all that, but the Legend Killer then on has pretty much been, he's a heel.
Yeah, pretty much. And then Edge is a wrestler that is near and dear to the hearts of many, many fans, including myself, including John.
Oh, yeah.
We love him.
We're Edge heads.
We are Edge heads. What's been great about Edge is he was one of the many wrestlers who was forced to retire early due to injuries. And there's a laundry list of wrestlers who had to cut their time short because of injuries. But he was able to have a couple successful neck surgeries and able to come back. So he was a surprise entrant in the Royal Rumble back in January, and he's had this program with Randy now where they used to tag team together and they, you know, wrestled each other for a number of years.
Oh, yeah.
And so, you know, Randy being the bad guy is, I guess, trying to keep Edge from coming back and getting hurt or...
Yeah.
Something like that.
I think that's kind of the motive or the storyline is like, stay home and be with your family. So, you know, coming out here, you're not on the road all the time and, you know, don't want you to get hurt again.
Mm-hmm. And instead of talking to him like a friend, Randy does what Randy does best and just injures him and...
RKO out of nowhere.
How about a concerto? And put Edge's head between two chairs and smash down and... Yeah, it's been an interesting program, but they were the participants of the greatest match of all time. John, was that the greatest match you've ever seen in your life?
That is not the greatest match. It was entertaining.
Yes.
I appreciate the spots where, you know, they gave shout outs to previous wrestlers who had some of the greatest matches. Like, you know, there was the Rock Bottom, the Pedigree. There was the Three Amigos from the late, great Eddie Guerrero.
Oh, love him.
They tried their best. They didn't do it as well as he did,
but
it's hard to beat the original.
It's very hard to beat the original. But the match was very long. So for me, there was two parts that went bad. The match was super long. It was easily the longest match of the night. Mm-hmm. And really surprising, considering that Randy's 40 and Edge is 45, 46. And coming, you know, Edge has been retired for 9 years. So having them both do this extra long match, that was pretty interesting. The only other bad thing that didn't quite mash with me is that they pumped in audience. What do you call it? Like, basically they had pre-recorded audience noises and cheers and boos and chants, and they pumped that in with the wrestlers that were there in the audience. But the editing was kind of weird because the pumped in noise didn't always match up exactly with the wrestlers that were chanting. So that was distracting, to say the least. But besides that, like you said, there were some good spots. It was fairly entertaining. it just, again, very long.
How about that close-up when we could hear what Randy was saying?
Oh, yeah.
I was like, wow. He was like...
Randy dropped the no-no word.
He said the F word. It's not friend.
I called my mama and I said, Mama, the bad man used a bad word.
And I was like, wow, we're going all in.
Yeah.
He said, I'm up. You up. I was like, all right.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's storyline, if you actually meant those words, but you had that look in your eye.
And there was some blood where there was a couple cuts on Randy, but he wasn't bleeding enough where it went black and white.
Right.
They told line where if a wrestler's cut a little bit, then they'll keep it going, but if it ever gets too much, then they'll switch to black and white footage. It's goofy. It's kind of a goofy transition, but obviously they do it for, to try to keep that PG-13 rating. But yeah, drop that big F-bomb. And, for a second I'm like, oh, maybe that wasn't intentional, but it, especially when you saw the ending where he was whispering and they purposely put the mic, made it loud to hear what Randy was saying to Edge, then it's like, okay, that was intentional.
Yeah, because at the end he was like, go home and be with your wife and your $2 and, just go home. And he was like, tell him Uncle Randy said, hey.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, insult to injury. You just beat this man to death and you're talking about his family.
It was dark.
If we was in the streets, you got cat busted. Just saying.
And you think this is over, except it wasn't. They told a story even at the end where there's medics that were there to try to put Edge on a stretcher to take him out, and Edge said no and refused those medics. So we're gonna probably see at least one more match between them. What do you think they could do? Because obviously this wasn't the greatest match in the world.
No.
But it was a traditional.
It was one of the best
match.
matches I've seen. I don't know that I can say there's one that's the greatest match of all time.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because it's hard to say that, because there's little things you can nitpick about every wrestling match that we've seen. I mean, we've been watching wrestling since what? We were in like diapers?
Back in the day.
Back in my day.
That's right.
But I think, I don't know, I guess it depends on their bodies and what Edge thinks he can handle. Because, back in the day, Edge was a tag team when, him, Christian, the Hardys, and the Dudleys were known for their table, ladders, and chairs matches.
Oh, man. So many. He's gone through so many tables.
Those were some of the greatest matches I've seen. Still giving me goosebumps.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
But I don't know that his body can be put through that.
Right.
We don't want to injure his neck.
Right.
But we've had, the backyard fight. We've had a wrestling ring. So what?
Yeah, the first match in WrestleMania was a backstage brawl, backyard brawl. No holds barred, I think is what they officially called it, where anything goes.
Last man standing.
Oh, that's right, it was last man standing. Sorry, last man standing is once you are on the ground, the ref will count to 10. If you can't get up, then your opponent wins.
Yes.
So there was quite a few moments. That was another long one, by the way. Another long match.
Yeah, they got social media did not have with that.
Yeah, I haven't seen what social media said about tonight's, but I have a feeling they also said it was long.
Yes.
But I mean, again, it was still a pretty solid match. It was just long, and the noise pumped in was goofy.
And the brightness got turned up, and I thought something was wrong with my TV, but you noticed it too, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, it was brighter in there, and they started off with the microphones that they used. It said Madison Square Garden, which, yes, arguably there have been amazing matches at Madison Square Garden. And then they used an announcer who has passed away for a number of years, I think. Finkel's passed away a number of years, quite a while ago, I think. So they used his voice to do the announcing, which was kind of goofy. I liked it, but it was just a little jarring, a little goofy. So overall, it was an interesting, although entertaining, final match. And it set the stage for possibly another match, like a final match.
Ooh.
Maybe SummerSlam.
What if the next one, they do an I Quit match?
Oh, you know what? That would match up very, very well with the storyline. So Randy just wants Edge to quit and to retire.
And Edge is like, no, I've still got more gas in the tank. Let's go.
Yep, exactly. But then that would probably mean Randy wins, right? to kind of end the storyline?
I could see that happening.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think, but I mean, even in I Quit matches in the past, even if they say I quit, they end up coming back.
Yes, yeah. With WWE, if there is a I Quit match or a retirement match, they never retire.
Yeah, it's like a little vacation.
Yes, I think the only one that officially did retire was Ric Flair after he fought Shawn Michaels. I think. I don't think Rick came back.
No, he didn't.
No, he was done, and that was a great match too. Mm-hmm. So yeah,
that one's still the tears.
Yes. Oh yeah, very emotional. So yeah, nothing is ever set in stone in WWE. You know, wrestlers come and go and come back and go and come back and come back again and come back again. But that would make sense, like an I Quit match, and depending on how, you know, it could go either way with Randy winning or with Edge winning.
Because right now they're tied 1 apiece.
Yes, they're 1 apiece. So you know they have to have some kind of final. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking SummerSlam, give their bodies a little bit of a rest.
Yeah.
Because that was pretty impressive, those guys at their age.
Yes.
Kind of going through the punishment that they did. And it was technically pretty solid. There was a couple botches here and there where moves didn't quite look right or didn't quite end up where probably they meant to. Overall, pretty solid. So overall,
yeah.
Give me your thoughts one more time. Overall,
good, solid show.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
My positives outweigh my negative on this.
Yes.
Yeah. As a fan, I was entertained.
Mm-hmm.
I think who I wanted to win won, or for the most part.
Yeah.
And I got to laugh, and I got to hang out with my bros. So.
Yo! That's the best part. Yeah. So we'll see how these next coming weeks go. If you're not a fan of wrestling, there is usually a pay-per-view once a month. So the next one is Extreme Rules. And so in the past with Extreme Rules, that's where you would see your table matches, where
the more hardcore stuff.
Yes, you would see weapons in the ring, you'd see all kinds of stuff. And so, yeah, back in the good old days, the blood flowed a lot, and
they toned that down.
They toned that down quite a bit. But, you know, you'll probably get like a chairs match where they'll have a bunch of chairs and smack each other around with them. And maybe a couple tables, and we'll see. We'll see how it goes. So, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the show tonight. We love talking wrestling. And so hopefully you guys like listening to us talk about wrestling. But please let us know your thoughts. We would love to do this a little more often where, you know, after a pay-per-view, we can talk about the things we liked, things we didn't like, you know, talk about the state of the different companies. Mm-hmm. You know, we can talk about AEW because that's been pretty solid since they've started. It's been nice seeing some competition.
Yes.
And some, because it's different wrestling, although the big joke is you see a lot of former WWE wrestlers in AEW, but they put on a different product, and so it's been nice having something different on Wednesday nights.
It's nice to have options.
Yes, you know, and I think that they're going to be around for a long time. That's kind of the writing on the wall, that they are actually been very successful for TNT, and they're going to even get another show going at some point in time on TNT. You know, obviously I think COVID, you know, put a damper on that, They had like announced it that they were going to have a second show at some point before this all started. So wrestling's been interesting. I think you learn the hard way that the audience is an intricate part of what makes wrestling great.
Yes.
Because even though it's scripted, we know it's scripted.
We still get invested.
You still get invested. We can always dig a good guy versus bad guy, or good gal versus bad girl.
Heck yeah.
Storyline. It's fun and it's interesting. And yes, even though it's scripted, the moves look cool. All right.
Because I can't do that stuff.
No.
I would hurt somebody.
They got some funky stuff. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the show tonight. We want to do this again. So let us know in the comments if there's anything specific about wrestling you would like to talk about, or if it's something you want to learn. If you like these recaps, if you don't have time to watch wrestling, I mean, who does have time to watch everything?
Right. There's never enough time.
No, Raw is 3 hours, SmackDown's 2 hours, NXT's 2 hours, AEW on Wednesday nights is 2 hours. These pay-per-views are 3 to 4 hours. You know, luckily This one I think was only like 2.5 hours.
About that, yeah.
That was, thank goodness. So we definitely love talking about this. So let us know in a voicemail on anchor.fm, or again, our socials are at EnterCodePod on Facebook and on Twitter.
We're on Instagram now,
We're all on Instagram as well. Is that also EnterCodePod?
EnterCode Podcast.
Okay. On Instagram, it's EnterCode Podcast. So just leave us a comment there. Let us know what you think, and we would love to talk about this more. Any final thoughts?
No, man. It's late. I'm tired.
I know.
I'm all wrestled out.
Even though it's shorter than normal pay-per-view, it still felt like a long pay-per-view.
It always feels like a lot, but...
That's right.
I'm sleepy tired.
And just final note, guys. Again, we know it's fake, but hey... We let people enjoy things.
We like it.
Don't
take my nice things away.
And hey, if you like it too, awesome. If you've never seen it before,
we can still be friends.
We can still be friends. Give it a chance, though. Give it a chance. And hey, if you, we would understand if you rolled your eyes and hated it. Yeah, it's not for everyone. That's for sure. All right, guys. Until next time, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next week with another episode. Have a good week. Be safe. Be healthy, and we'll see you next time. Peace.
Bye.